Okay, this is poopscavator robot video take 10-ish. So this is a robot I have constructed using the Johnny 5 framework, which is Node.js acting on Arduino. So in the back there where the pulsing light is, I'm not sure if you can see that, there's an Arduino embedded in there. And so the way that works is Johnny 5 is running on my MacBook there, and it's issuing commands and taking readings from the Arduino. So it's just talking over the wire to it. So it's been a rough week for it's been a rough life for the robot. Just so many problems getting all these things working together. I've learned a lot though, and that's great. Rough week also for the MacBook. So my regular machine, MacBook went down this week and melted down completely. The motherboard did. So fortunately I have this older one here, and I was able to bring it up and get everything loaded onto it. I'm still having some issues with the amount of chatter over the wire with the number of sensors and actuators and all the things going on with this device, but I just made some changes to the pulse function, which I had to custom write for the multicolored LED, and it seems to be somewhat stable now. It was at a point where it was pulsing like 3 or 4 times and then completely dying. So let's look at the device. So this is this robotic arm comes from a company called Sane Smart, and this is the 4-axis palletizing robotic arm. I've made a few modifications to it. This servo, this close one, is which effectively operates powers the shoulder. Didn't have enough torque to support the scoop that I added on the front. So out of the box, the robotic arm comes with like a micro servo mounted on the front, just oriented in a different direction that would work for my project. So I just took that off completely, added this larger one with the scoop, and we're up and running. So how this thing works, it's just standing by. Over here on the right is a motion sensor. It just waits to detect motion, and then once it stops detecting motion because it's pulling, then it starts to count down, which in production would last 5 to 7 minutes, but right now I have it lasting about 5 seconds. And then it sounds, flashes the light, sounds a little, the little piezo speaker in the back makes a little sound to scare away the cat, and then it begins its scooping process. So let's take a look at how it's supposed to behave. So there it changed color, and now the light is stable because it's detecting the motion, and I'm moving some stuff around. Looks like it detected the stop of motion, and now it's getting ready to do its thing. So now it's beginning its scoop sequence, and just to speak on behalf of how rapidly this stuff is changing, I just pulled a new version of Johnny 5, and I was having some issues with the precision of the arm, so I had to down rev it, and looks like things are back to normal. So right now this scoop just follows a pre-programmed path, and I'm considering eventually looking into a couple different means of improving the accuracy. So like preventing it from dropping a load when there's nothing in the scoop, such as it's doing right now. So some of the options I'm looking at would be measuring the weight of this on the scoop, and or performing a visual inspection on the scoop itself. We'll see. So what this does, it'll sweep from right to left. It'll perform 2 sweeps. It'll do a near one, and then it'll go around and do a further one where it reaches closer to the edge. And then after that, it will begin its leveling sequence. So it's disturbing the soil, the litter, and And the assumption is that the cat would also disturb the litter, so after performing all of its scoops, it goes around and attempts to flatten the litter. So should see it do that pretty soon here. Also on board, I have a couple buttons there. I have just a convenience button to pop the lid open, which is this one right here, and that just pops that open. I'll just preempt a dumping for the device, and I just put that in, and it isn't very sophisticated. There are also I've had a number of programming challenges around setting this thing up. So implementing a behavior-based subsumption architecture has been a bit challenging for several reasons. One, I've been using JavaScript for many years, but I'm still consider myself a student of the language, and also Node.js. I've had very little exposure to that. So, and then the whole idea, I mean, it's only dawned on me recently how all this stuff fits together. But it seems to be fairly stable, so that's good. And it's all moving rapidly. There's a lot of different hardware out there. Figuring out all these parts, getting them in. And speaking of which, this garbage can, I've been intending to add a load sensor to the bottom so I could make network calls, basically send a notification to my phone when this thing's full. You know, a little reminder to an alert to come home and empty the bin. But there's no support for that just yet. It's HX711 SparkFun load cell amplifier that I'm particularly looking for support for. And I may end up having to roll up my sleeves and build it myself, add that in, contribute. But in the meantime, it has no load sensor. So if I hit the panic button here, it should stop and go back, and that's its parked position. And the reason it's parked there is when I cut the power, it tends to drop the shovel. So there you go. That's the poopscavator. It's a work in progress.